Today, we're going to be going through scenario number 2 of the North Atlantic Teleport Services campaign. So, scenario 2 is scheduled maintenance, where we're going to be walking through the power down and recovery procedures. This will be the first time that we actually get to put hands on the equipment and make some changes. So, Charlie explains here in the opening that there's going to be maintenance on the antenna feed assembly in the next 15 minutes. So, we've got some time, but we need to keep moving to make sure we get everything turned off. The first kind of stage of this is going to be powering down everything, at which point they'll perform the maintenance and then we'll power everything back up. Anytime you're doing these scenarios, it's always best to start by opening the checklist and seeing what we need to accomplish. So, our first checklist item here is to open and read the mission brief, specifically the safety brief. So, open it here. We're going to scroll down, and the mission brief will walk you through a high level of what they're doing, specifically the flange gasket on the waveguide. And then there's an RF safety brief that explains the details of what we need to be concerned about and why it's so important that we power everything down. Um, the maintenance team, if they were to accidentally come in contact with the high power or come in contact with the equipment while it's still powered on, that can cause thermal burns, radiation exposure, and even induce current in nearby metal, burning those that might accidentally touch it. So it's very important that we are safe and make sure that everything is powered off before maintenance begins. And then one of the concepts I want to cover here is lockout tagout. So what we're going to do, and this is simulated, is we're going to power everything off. They're going to then lock the equipment physically and then hand the keys to the maintainers that are going out to do the work. This way, there's no scenario where anybody accidentally turns on the equipment until the maintainers are safely out of the way. So our job for right now is just to turn everything off, and then the lockout tagout will be simulated. So now that we fully understand the safety brief, we go ahead and acknowledge it for Charlie. Cool. And now we can actually begin the shutdown procedures. So first up is the high-powered amplifier. So we're going to go ahead and click on Vermont. I'm going to find the transmit chain where the amplifier is, and we're going to go ahead and disable it. So at this point, there's no energy going out. It's still powered up, but it's not actively sending RF into space, and it's slowly starting to cool off. With it disabled, we can then de-energize the entire equipment. And that stops most of the power going out of the building. But one of the other things we need to do is mute the block up converter. So it's only a few milliwatts, but there's no reason to have any energy going out while maintenance is being performed. So we're going to click the mute to disable that. Cool. So Charlie points out that at this stage, all of the transmit chain is silent. So going back to our checklist, the next thing we need to do is turn off the low noise block. So we're going to click on the receive side now, and here's our low noise block. We can go ahead and power that off. So that disables the transmit and receive chain for all of the RF energy. Next up is actually switching the pointing of the antenna element so the maintainers can get access to it. Right now, we're aimed at 34 degrees elevation, so not ground level down here and not the straight up setting. If we were to stow it, that would actually unwind all of the azimuth. So we would unwind the cables and then move the antenna so that it's aiming straight up. For weather conditions, that's what you do, and for certain maintenance actions. But for today's, we actually need to lower the elevation so that the maintainers can climb up and have access to the dish. So we're going to pick the maintenance setting, which will automatically set the elevation down to 5, and we're going to apply it. Excellent. So Charlie acknowledges that the antenna is in a maintenance setting. Crew's all clear, so lockout tagout's been completed, and they're going to go ahead and do the work. Now, luckily, we're not going to have everybody sit here for 15 minutes waiting. We're going to simulate the time elapsing. One of the things that Charlie mentions in here is that it's always important to write down what you're doing. So as you're completing these scenarios, you should be able to repeat back what you've done. And in some of the intermediate and advanced scenarios, we'll actually quiz you on certain steps you took in earlier parts of the level. This is just basic process for being a for being a ground station operator. You've got to know what you're doing, and the easiest way to do that is just to write it down. Okay, so maintenance is now complete, and we can start setting the antenna back to the satellite. So going back to the antenna control unit, we've got our antenna, and we need to aim for the satellite. So we're new program track. Target's already locked onto tide mark 1, and we hit move to target. We see the elevation climbing back up. Excellent. So now we need to go in and turn on the low noise block again. So picking our received chain, we're going to go ahead and power the low noise block back on. Wait for it to come to temperature and get a lock with the GPS DO. Excellent. So now we need to start the transmit side. Just to do a quick sanity check, I'll open my checklist again. Oh, I'm actually ahead of myself here. So first thing we need to do is actually make sure that we have the beacon. And so if we scroll down, we can see the beacon's kind of off screen over here. So we need to have the spectrum analyzer set to 1074.5, and we were slightly off. So we're going to make a quick adjustment here. And now our beacon's dead center. So now that we know for sure that the antenna is aimed at the satellite like it's supposed to, now we can start the transmission process. So we're going to go back to our transmit chain. We're going to go up to our block up converter and we'll go ahead and unmute it. So now our intermediate signal is being converted back to RF. And now we can turn on the high-powered amplifier. And the last step is to enable it so we can start transmitting back up to the satellite again. Cool. So Charlie kind of gives a quick recap here that we went and powered off all the equipment and then stowed the antenna and then did everything back in reverse to get us back up and online with the satellite. So this is kind of the normal process for doing maintenance at the ground stations. We completed all 13 objectives, and in terms of time, it took us a little less than 7 minutes. So that's scenario number 2. Hopefully that was helpful in figuring out how to do everything. And then if you want to check back, we'll have some videos up for how to do scenario number 3 in a little bit.